Oh, you ain't so tough.
So
Yeah,
well, now you
ain't
see the
so
guys,
bad,
and
baby.
now you guys see the build in action. I'm going to get right down to the explanation of it. Let's collect my little loot. This was done on Apocalypse. Hey you guys, good morning. It's your boy Pickle Rick coming back at you again with another build video. I think you guys are gonna enjoy this. Now this build video, I recommend high-end, you know, high-end skill-based people. Majority of the time, this build is gonna require you doing at least 1 or 2 playthroughs, or maybe even more playthroughs, because some of the items are hard to obtain. 2, 3 of them are specifically extremely hard to attain or time consuming. So you're gonna have to put the time and effort to get some of these items. But once you get these items, it's gonna make this build well worth it. Now I'm gonna get into an explanation of the build breakdown. Right now I left all my traits. I redid all my traits because there's a couple of things with this build that works out. I want to explain in full theory and very clearly. So at the bottom, you're going to say I have a concoction activated. I also have the little time clock. That time clock right there is a permanent haste thing I got. Now the first thing with this build, since this is a high RPM DPS build, is Tranquil Heart. This is the #1 key item to this build. Multiple reasons why. One, it grants the passive ability to grant 2 health regeneration per second. On use, doubles all health regeneration. That is a big key part to this entire build. The next key item to this build is going to be the Bright Steel Ring. Also, another hard thing to get. You're going to have to complete 15 hold worlds completely 100% in order to unlock this item. Now, if you're having trouble unlocking this item, or you just don't have the time to get this item specifically, you can always replace this with where's it at? The Leto's amulet, which you wear a heavy set of armor, and you do 100 belly flops. You can literally do that anywhere in the world. It should take you about a good 15-20 minutes. You're just doing it right there in front of War, in War 13, and then you buy it off of Reggie, which is the old guy that's just next to Metu. Now, my thing is, I went with the Night Reaver's Grudge. This also another hard item to get. I highly recommend you get this item specifically. Why? Because it gains 20% critical hit chance and haste when within 15 meters of an entity suffering from a status effect. Now we're going to get into the status effects too. We got 2 primary status effects. And the main ones is Bleed and Electric Shock or Arc, whatever you want to call it. Shock and Overload. You know, Destiny, big time Destiny player. So I might say Arc a lot. The next best thing, while also it's required you run through this game at least once, Probability Core comes from Root Earth and Game World. You find that ring. Next best thing, Anastasia's Inspiration. This is a permanent haste buff I have at all times. When receiving healing effects, gain haste for 10 seconds. Well, guess what? I'm permanently receiving healing effects because of the Tranquil Heart right here, buddy. So this is going to be unlimited, never 10 seconds. As you can see right there, it's that little time clock. See, now when we go back in it, I click on this bad boy and I just put something else on, my haste is gone. Now the reason why we're going with haste, I can't stress haste enough, is because haste grants like a 7% buff to everything that you do. Everything. So reload speed, RPM, damage, running, recovery. Haste grants a permanent speed, like a buff to everything that your character does or can do. Next best thing, because what it'll be focusing on the one specific mob particularly, is Fairlane Sigil. Fairlane Sigil, critical and weak spot hits generate 10% additional mob power. Remember I said this is a high RPM, fully automatic gun build video. So if you're one of those guys that like to play games like this or play games like Division 2, which is mainly my background, but I left that game years ago because they don't upload content like that. And you like, you know, you're one of those guys that having like arthritis or carpal tunnel or pains in your fingers, or you're an older fellow that just likes to, you know, get away from reality. I like to play video games, but you know, you can't be spamming that trigger like a madman. Like, I understand it 100% because I don't like to do that neither. My fingers be hurting. So since I activated a mod, I'm just show you the RPM real quick with the mod alone. That's the RPM damage per second. Now that's just the mod alone. This is the gun alone with just all the RPM buffs. Fairly decent. Now you see how much mod power I got for one clip? I'm already 3/4 of the way. So, one clip and a quarter, I got my mod back. Now to show you the high RPMs with the haste and all the buffs, the hugs buffs with DPS. It could get a little crazy. Boom, just broke 50k right when my mod ran out. Or just about to run out. Most weapons, if you build them to the right, are gonna get you anywhere between 50 to 60k. The harder hitting weapons, which is like single shot weapons, repeaters, bows, are gonna easily get you to like 60 and above k with one of their mod clips. Now, we're gonna get to where I'm getting most of my RPMs from. So, my main thing I'm getting from my RPMs is overflow. Imbues ammunition with shock and increases fire rate by 15% and reload speed by 15% for 20 seconds. That's one major thing. Of course, I gotta go with Twisted Wounds. That's 2 different status effects. Remind you, when you right here with the Night Warrior's Grunge, haste when an entity haste within 15 meters of the entity suffering from a status effect. If I ain't got my mod up, Twisted Wounds consistently applying bleed. Now there's only 2 enemies in this game that I know of in the whole entire game that you cannot apply bleed to. One of them is on the Rude. That is the ghost, the phantom ghost. They can't bleed obviously because they're ghosts, I mean, or spirit. What they're gonna bleed, what, plasma? I don't know. And the rocks from the labyrinth. Those are the only 2 enemies in the whole game you cannot apply bleed to. If you're into one of those 2 major areas where you're seeing a lot of those enemies, I would immediately switch out Twisted Wounds for something like Momentum. What Momentum grants is when this weapon scores a critical hit, it increases critical chance of critical damage by 3% for 3 seconds. Max 10 stacks. At level 10, when this is fully upgraded, critical hits from a weapon add 2 stacks. Increases duration by 2 seconds. So Momentum could be your next top pick if you ain't got Twisted Wounds, or if you're running to one of those 2 areas in the game where you have enemies that you cannot apply bleed to. Now the other way I'm applying RPM is gonna be my my fragments on my relic. So I got 10% fire rate on my one of my mythic fragments, and the other 2 of course gonna be critical hit chance, critical hit damage. This is a double archetype DPS build, and this is what I'm aiming for. Haste, high RPM, fully automatic weapon. Get the job done the same way a single shot hard hitting weapon can, that requires a lot of precision and timing. And then Bullet Storm is also going to grant, I believe, a high RPM thing, if I remember correctly. Increases fire rate by another 20% and reload speed by 50% of all ranged weapons. So Bullet Storm is also going to increase your fire rate. So with Bullet Storm and all these high RPM buffs, this is going to significantly increase your RPM and pretty much annihilate bosses on any difficulty while you're by yourself or at least one other person. Now when you start running 3 people, I recommend one of those 3 people because this game gets significantly harder. This is not an easy game now. It gets significantly harder with 3 people. So if you got 3 people, I would highly suggest one of them be like a medic or something. Now the way I do my points, my trait points specifically with this build. Oh, and like I said, this is something that requires like a lot of stuff. You got at least 1 or 2 playthroughs because I got the bright steel ring, and what that does is I can wear the heaviest armor set, the most armor. I wear this bad boy. I can still dodge like a normal roll, like if I'm wearing light armor. When you start getting into the Nightmare Apocalypse difficulty, like listen man, we're not like some of these PC professional gamers out there. 98% of us are not professional gamers. We're on console just like me and you. I'm a console player. You know, I got a full-time job and stuff like that. I understand. You want to make it as easy and as less stressful as possible for you. But if you like to rock DPS, there's a bell brought to you. So now the way I do my trade points, once you get to those higher difficulties, Nightmare and up, can't stress enough. When you beat the game once, you're going to unlock the Explorer class. Max out Explorer so you can unlock the trait card, Swiftness. This increases movement speed. Maxed out, 15%. I cannot stress enough. Movement is key to survival and endgame. Unless you're full on rocking an unkillable tank build, movement, movement, movement. I might be a little tanky, movement, movement, movement. Because if you stay still in one spot and you're getting hit 2 or 3 times, 9 times out of 10, you're going to go down. You're going to die. It's very easy to die in the higher end and the higher difficulties of this game. Swiftness, I always recommend number 1. Number 2 and 3, always. Health, endurance, so you have stamina to continuously run away from the enemy if you get trapped or get stuck in the corner, or I just have to outrun an attack or something. Now, the next 2 I always require these. I don't care what you rock. I always require these for any build. Is Fortify and Bark Skin. What that does, increases your damage reduction. Fortify, you get that fully unlocked from the Engineer archetype. Once you find that and maxize that, that's armor effectiveness. My armor effectiveness. Now my armor is up to 255. Now as far as from here, you can really go any way you want, but since you're rocking double DPS, you want those skills to come back as quickly as possible. So our next best thing I would recommend is your skill cooldowns, because you're going to be heavily relying on Bullet Storm, Hunter Shroud to do your maximum amount of DPS. Now, the next 10 traits, what I usually do, honestly, I don't see a difference in Untouchable, which you get from the Invader archetype. I used to spec into this, but honestly, I don't think it makes a difference on console because of my frame rate. It's just not the same as PC. So I just stopped specking into this in general. I got good. I just got better at timing my dodges. I'm gonna keep it 100% honest with you. Just get good. And this thing right here, you're probably never gonna need this. The next 2 best things is because you want to regain your health. Those small windows opportunities or relics, you might miss those windows opportunity, and sometimes you just gotta run away or evade their attack, or else you might go down. I highly recommend health regain. Now the way I like to do it all the way up to 1.05, because my Tranquil Heart grants me 2 passive over time. I get this to 1. Now I got 3 health regen every second. And then last but not least, I put my last 3 trait points into my power generation. And that's going to help me get my power generation even faster, along with the ring, Family Sigil. Now we can go on to the advanced stats so you guys can get a hold of what I'm rocking with. Now when you put all those trait points together and you got this whole build looking like this pretty much, we are at damage reduction 10%. Total damage reduction between armor and ore, 75.7%, which is really good. It's almost capped out, but not quite. We're not using any wasted stats, over 80%. Skill cooldown, 20%. My power generation, 6%. But with Fellow Signal, that's 16%. Because we got nothing but crit hit chance or crit hit damage in this DPS spell. So technically, that 6% is actually 16%, because you're constantly going to be hitting crits. My fire rate, 32%. Critical damage, a whopping 80%. Range damage, 65%. And then weak spot damage, you know, your average 15%. We're not going weak spot because we're not using precision weapons. And then your range quick hit chance, 20%. Now, technically, that's more like 40%. Because of this amulet, I highly recommend go out the way, get this amulet, the Tranquil Heart, and the bright steel ring, and the probability core. I'm telling you, when you put these things together, this build works magic. It hits hard. It's fully automatic. It's a good build, you know, especially for people who don't want to spam on that trigger on console. I understand 100%. The first playthrough I ran through this game, I was rocking Nightfall, and let me tell you, man, I don't use that gun no more. Not because they nerfed it, but because That gun kills my finger just constantly. Once the mod ends in Nightfall and you're just doing this, that thing starts killing my finger, man. Like, yo, I'm like halfway in my late 30s. I'm going on to my late 30s soon. I'm gonna be pushing 40, man. My finger can't be doing all that extra trigger. So I understand 100%. If you don't like to use like repeaters or the Hunt Master, I understand it. This is why I made this build. Yeah, because with these weapons, you're just... I mean, Bullet Storm, granted, makes it fully automatic, but it's only for what, 20 seconds? Like, nah, not my thing. I like fully automatic, make my life easy. I ain't gotta worry about getting the actual precision hit. I could just aim, spray, and pray. I recommend the AR Black Malt because it hits hard. It has decent RPM. It's easy to hit your crits. And waypoint hits. And you can buy it right here. So that's it for the build video, guys. I hope you enjoy it. You have a great day.